Hi! Oh, shit, where are my notes?
Oh yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Hello everyone, and welcome to don't really know how to start my videos. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Last Guardian, which is a game that I probably shouldn't be trying to tackle for my first ever review, but I'm gonna try to do it anyways. So let's jump right into this so I can tell you what a game this is. Now, this game is a Team Ico game, which means the story is something really important and not something that's very expected a lot of times. So I'm going to do my best and keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. So you don't have to be afraid of getting spoiled with the game or anything. Now, with that being said, let's just jump right into it. The Last Guardian opens up with the protagonist, you, lying down on the floor covered in tattoos with no idea what just happened to you. And you also wake up next to a giant man-eating beast called a Trico. Now, despite the main character knowing that this beast eats people, he decides to help it anyway. So you start the game off by pulling spears out of Trico and giving it these blue barrels that it eats as food or something. Then, as it begins to trust you, you're able to work together, take its chains off, and start exploring and escape. Now, this sounds like a pretty cool opening, right? Well, yes and no. This intro is a great way to start the bond between you and Trico, allowing you to form trust with it and to work together to escape. But, the whole time you're doing this, a fucking storytelling voice has to describe everything that's happening in front of your eyes to you. And it does this for almost the whole game. The voice will tell you that Trico is uneasy, or that something is happening, when you can clearly see what's happening. It's unnecessarily shoving everything in your face. The first two games by Team Ico were much more subtle about what was going on. Every experience was your own, rather than something telling you about the experience. But I will say that the voice does come in handy at times, as a way to guide the player. There are some things that I never would have guessed without it, and sometimes I was actually grateful for the advice it gave me. So, with the bad comes good, and I guess it's not the worst thing really, just more of a minor nitpick. So, after you and Trico get out of the cave that you were in, now you have to get out of the castle that you're in. And that's really the main story. There's not much else I can get into without digging into some spoilers that are more towards the end of the game. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Now, how you manage to escape is where the real fun begins. Now, many people that know of Team Ico and their original game, fucking Ico, will probably think, yeah, this is Ico with a bird creature, right? And that is, at least, somewhat true. You and a companion work your way through various puzzles to escape a castle, thing, a structure together. But in Ico, your companion Yorda is less of a companion and more of someone that you're just leading around. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. The game is built around this, and I think it works rather well. And some of you may not think that, but some of you also have bad taste. Now, the difference between Ico and The Last Guardian is that Trico is definitely more of a companion. In fact, there are a few times in the game where it seems like Trico is the one leading you around. You have to work together to escape, which is fucking awesome. And most of the puzzles in the game revolve around you and Trico working together to get through something. He needs you to move forward, and you need him. Either one of you can get left behind, or else you're missing an integral half. And this is shown in the very beginning of the game. When you're trapped in that cave together, you have to use Trico to lift you up onto a small little crawl space where you find... Wait. Hold up, is this the fucking place from Shadow of the Colossus? Huh. I mean, I don't know if it is, but it sure bears a striking resemblance. Whatever. Anyway, you find this mystical mirror shield that you point at shit, and Trico uses his fucking lightning tail to blow the rubble away. I'll be honest, this really took me by surprise when I first saw it. It's also taken away from you in like 30 minutes. so that's a little disappointing. So then after the first little cave where you build your trust, you're given a much more open space to work together. And this is where you'll learn of one of Trico's more expected abilities. Jumping fucking high. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Trico would be able to reach places that you wouldn't. Certainly makes more sense than a goddamn lightning tail. Not only do you use Trico to jump to places that you can't get to, but he can also lift you up to high places. He can jump to certain areas and you can grab onto his tail and use it as a rope. A lot of the puzzle solving in the game will be using Trico like this, and that's fine. I mean, what did you expect? Fucking lightning come out of his tail? Am I dwelling on this too much? Trico could shoot lightning out of his fucking tail. Now, a little bit more into the game, and you find yet another obstacle. But this time, it's an obstacle for Trico, and not for you. Trico is scared of these little stained glass eyes. And when you first encounter these, you literally just push it off the cliff. Absolutely nothing to it. But the farther you go into the game, the more complex it becomes to remove these obstacles. You'll have to climb around walls, climb up ropes and chains, and hang way up in the air to push them off. Sometimes it'll be a trap. Hey, wait, was this in one of the trailers? And sometimes, enemies will use it as a shield so Trico doesn't attack. Now let's talk about enemies. Remember in Ico how boring the combat was? Sure, it created some tense moments when you had to rescue Yorda from a horde of shadow monsters, but despite that, I'll be honest, the combat was pretty bland. Now, the Last Guardian steps it up yet again and makes enemies far more interesting, while somehow making you, the player, way less involved in the fights. These enemies do two things. They try to kidnap you and take you away, and they try to attack Trico. Now, when they're going after you, the obvious thing to do is run away. And this becomes legitimately intense, especially when there are multiple enemies coming after you, and they're all shooting these spells at you. And one thing that I'd like to mention really quick is how cool the spells are. They make these symbols pop up on your screen that you have to press buttons to make go away. And the same symbols pop up on the game over screen. Just a small little detail I think is a little neato. So, when you're running away from these guys and they're shooting spells at you, things get pretty intense. And there are many times in the game where you're separated from Trico and you'll get attacked, and you need to find out how to get Trico to come to you to help you. Because you can't harm these guys on your own. You have no weapons, no defense, you have nothing. Your only defense is in Trico. So you have to have Trico with you to defeat these guys, and when you get Trico to come beat up the baddies, it's fucking rad. Trico starts demolishing all the enemies as if they were fucking toys. And you can help them out then too. When you see someone about to attack them, you can run up and shove them so they don't harm Trico. And then also when Trico attacks them, you get this awesome song to play that makes everything feel even more rad. Unfortunately though, this is probably the only track in the game that I really like. The game takes a similar approach to Ico and uses silence more than music, which is, there's nothing really wrong with that. It makes it so that when music does come in, it has much more of an impact. But none of the songs in the game really stuck out to me. They were all good, just nothing really to blow your load over, you know? So after Trico has destroyed all the enemies, you're not done yet. With the battle over, you have to take all the spears out of him and pet him so that he calms down. Now, some people might see this as more of an annoyance, and I can kind of see that, but I legitimately enjoy it because I want to make sure that Trico's okay. He's my little buddy, he's my companion, and this is something that the game does a very good job at setting up. The bond between you and Trico becomes very strong because you're both working together, and not only that, you also save each other's lives multiple times throughout the game. You really see that Trico cares about you a lot, and you care about Trico a lot too. Or at least I did. I don't know about you, you heartless fucking monster. From what I've said so far, the game sounds pretty fucking rad, right? So, how does the game perform? How does the game play? Well, this is one of the only things I can say that's not spectacular about the game. When the game plays right, it plays right. It's satisfying to solve the puzzles and hop on Trico to the next area. Like, really, really satisfying. Firstly, I guess you can say the controls are bad, but I personally didn't mind them. They control similar to Shadow of the Colossus, which is one of the greatest games ever. And I don't need your FPS-loving opinion about controls you refuse to get used to shoved in my face. Shoving opinions in people's faces is my job. But a legitimate complaint would be that sometimes getting Trico to work is hard. I'm going to make another comparison to Aiko here. Remember Yorda? She wasn't perfect, but she did everything and followed commands pretty decently. Well, Yorda pretty much only had to run to where you were and latch onto your hand. Trico has a lot more things to do, and sometimes it's complicated to get him to do the right things. Sometimes you'll actually need to hop off Trico, and that will somehow reset his actions, and then he'll do it better. And there's actually one part of the game where you're stuck in a fucking tree and need to yell at Trico to get you out of it. I tried for about 3 minutes and then started recording it, and even after I started recording it, it took another 2 minutes. The most frustrating part of the game, hands down. I will say though that Trico does a better job listening than a real animal does.
Look, come here. Luna. No, Luna. Put the sock down. Luna. Luna, put the sock down, Luna. Luna, give me the sock. Give it. Luna, put the sock down. Luna. Luna! It's just too hard.
Also, there are some tips to help you that I literally had no idea about until the end of the game. You can actually control Trico by using certain button combinations. You can use R1 plus X to make Trico sit, R1 plus O to make it stand, R1 plus triangle to make it jump, and R1 plus square to make it attack. I was kinda pissed when I learned about these super late. I mean, it's not like a manual could have told me or anything. Who the fuck even reads manuals anymore? Now, there is one last thing I'd like to say before I wrap this whole video up. And that's that this game is fucking gorgeous. The past two games where this team looked good in their own ways, Aiko didn't really use that many colors, but it used the colors well, and I liked the way it looked a lot. And Shadow of the Colossus looked really good as well. The scenery in both games were beautiful, but those two games don't even hold a candle to this one. There are times where the game will seem to just let you stop and take a look around at all these amazing places and butterflies that are just flapping their wings around everywhere. When you're in the outside world, everything just looks so open and amazing. You can see other parts of the castle, and I can't even fully describe it to you. It just looks really good. I mean, look at all these shots I'm showing you. Just, damn. This game, in my correct opinion, is one of the better games to come out of 2016. But it's certainly a game for people with a little bit more patience, and for those who really like to soak everything in. And I know I didn't dive too much into it to save spoilers, but the story really has a lot more going on than what I said in the video, and it gets really good the farther you get into the game. This is one of those games that I really think reaches farther than just being a game and is an experience. And if you can look past the controls and the sometimes faulty AI of Trico, then it's a really, really good experience, and one that I would recommend you at least try. Thanks for sticking through to the end to watch the entire video. If you like it, maybe click that like button, maybe share with your friends, maybe even subscribe. But you don't have to subscribe because this is the only review on the channel, so you don't really know if the channel is going to be good or bad yet. By the way it looks from this review, it looks like it's going to be pretty bad.